Hello, my creeplings. I have said in the past that I don't really watch werewolf movies. I have not found too many that I actually liked. I was an idiot and forgot this one. This is actually one of my favorite horror movies, full stop. It is what I think it is my favorite werewolf movie right now. And it's new horror. It's millennial horror. It was released in theaters in 2001. We are talking about Ginger Snaps today, folks. Directed by John Fawcett. Screenplay by Karen Walton. From a story by both Karen Walton and John Fawcett. Released at the Munich Fantasy Film Fest on August 1st of 2000. We got a screen release May 11th, 2001. So this is millennial horror. This is a Canadian film. And it's got a pretty good cast list. There's some names that you'll notice. Some we've talked about on here before. Some I'm sure will show up again later. We have our main characters, the Fitzgerald sisters. Emily Perkins plays Bridget, and Catherine Isabel plays Ginger. Now, those two have worked together a lot around this time. They have very good chemistry together. Emily Perkins is most known in the circles that I talk to people about horror as young Bev Marsh in the ABC TV miniseries version of Stephen King's It, the one with Tim Curry. She's also been featured heavily on the TV show Supernatural as Becky the Superfan. The one who tried to get Sam to marry her with a love potion. The one who eventually ended up dating Chuck. Yeah, she's this Winchester Brothers superfan Becky. Going to Catherine Isabel, she was also heavily featured on early episodes of Supernatural. I cannot remember the character's name, but she was one of the kids that was marked by the yellow-eyed demon like Sam was. There was that group of kids that grew up to be adults with powers. She was one of them. She's also gone on to do a lot within the genre, most notably American Mary, which is a film by the Soska sisters. I'm looking to get a copy of that, and I really want to get into talking about that eventually, because it looks very interesting. We have Chris Lemke as Sam. Mimi Rogers shows up as their mother, Pamela Fitzgerald. We all know Mimi Rogers from, now, us horror fans who watched Ash vs. Evil Dead know her as Kelly's mother in season 1. But, like, the world knows her as Mrs. Kensington from the Austin Powers films. She's done a lot of stuff, and it's fun to see her do things like this. We have Jesse Moss as one of their classmates, Jason McCarty. He has been talked about on this channel before when I did the Tucker and Dale versus Evil chat. He played the lead male character, the antagonist, the one who's got everybody all worried about psycho killer hillbillies. That's him. So, yeah. And I also have noticed that if I pick things up from around this time period that were made in Canada, he tends to show up a lot. So I'm guessing that was his, like, regular working actor period. I'm not sure what he's doing now. And then people who love Canadian comedy and are fans of the Red Green Show will recognize the guy who plays their teacher, Mr. Wayne, Peter Kelligan, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He played Ranger Gord. And, yeah, that show is definitely a matter of taste. But if you like Canadian comedy, I highly recommend the Red Green Show. It basically is poking fun at middle-aged men, but I'm getting off topic. The rest of the names on here, it's like I see a few people and I think I recognize them, but I can't point it out, so I'm not going to mention them here. So, like I said, early 2000s Canadian horror film about a teenage girl turning into a werewolf. Very well shot. The story is very, very solid. And everybody turned in a stellar performance. So, we open in the suburb of Bailey Downs. We open up with evidence of a dog killing, and then we find out there's been a rash of dog killings in Bailey Downs. So much so that they've started nicknaming whatever's doing it the Beast of Bailey Downs. This segues into, because what happens is there's a little boy playing in his backyard sandbox, and he finds something. Well, Mom comes up and sees what it is, and it's parts of their dog. So, of course, she picks up her little son and just hysterically runs out into the cul-de-sac, screaming, "They got our dog, they got our..." I think the dog's name was Buster. I'm not sure. And this segues into us following Bridget into their home. Now, Bridget and Ginger are very dark teenagers. They have an obsession with death and dying. Bridget's 15, Ginger's 16. So, gives you an idea of where they're at. They share a lot of mindset with goths and emos, but, like, you wouldn't peg them as a goth or an emo because they don't do the whole fashion thing. But they're definitely obsessed with darkness and death, and I know people like that. I think at one point in time I might have been a person like that, or I was borderline. I get the mentality. Now, when they were kids, they made a pact to basically either get out of the suburbs or kill themselves. I believe, I'm going to mangle this, but the pact is dead by 16 or out of the scene. And there's another bit that I can't remember. So, yeah, they hate their life. I mean, I can see where they're bored and they're over creative. And that can be like a red mark. It can make you stand out like a sore thumb in towns like that. So, yeah, I can see where they're having troubles. Now, they have problems with a popular girl named Trina. Now, Trina has this, I think it's a Rottweiler or Pit Bull. It's a big dog that you would normally be scared of, but this dog seems like he's okay. He'd be, like a bit of a sweetheart. She's so proud of this damn dog. So they plot to kidnap the dog and make it look like the Beast of Bailey Downs got her dog to, really fuck with her. Well, they sneak out one night to go do this, and they find an already mutilated dog in the common area, and they're starting to move it, and we are informed that Ginger has started her first period. Now, she's a bit of a late bloomer. Her mother has talked about this with them, because there were hints that maybe Ginger was getting ready, cramping in the back, and moodiness, and all this stuff. Her mom's also excited and all this. Well, while they're out there, and Ginger's like, "Oh my god, I'm bleeding," because she was wearing a skirt, and apparently it was pretty heavy flow and went down her leg. She's attacked by this beast, the thing that tore the dog up that they were going to move. And the creature bites Ginger really bad, claws her up pretty good, and the girls are running away. Now, in the resulting chase, the creature chasing after Ginger because he smells her menstrual blood. Yes, we are going to talk about feminine problems. This is a female-centric movie that is very much talking about girls physically coming of age. I'm going to say things like menstrual blood and menses and talk about periods. If you don't like it, you can shut the video off. But if you're willing to, keep an open mind, you might learn something that if you are a straight male or you have females in your life, like sisters, every day, that might help you understand what they're going through. So, I don't know how deep I'm going to get into it, but there's an ick warning. If menstruation and women's cycles ick you out, feel free to check out of this one. I understand. Girls who have not started yet, you'll learn something, possibly. So, just stick with me here. So it's smelling her menstrual blood, and it's chasing her. It attacked her. They flee. This creature is run over by some guy in a van. Now, you find out that this guy is basically their local drug dealer. His name is Sam Miller. They get home, and Bridget's freaking out, saying, "Let me call 911, etc., etc." And Bridget's already looking at it, and it's starting to heal already, like, ridiculously fast. So, they hide the fact that Ginger was attacked. They don't go to their parents. They don't go to the hospital. They don't go to the police or anything. They just try to go about their lives. Now, as the days go by, Ginger starts changing. At first, it's, attitude. Instead of being icked out by, the guys in the class, she's now horny as fuck. And, starts behaving really aggressively, very overprotective of Bridge. Physically, she's got hair growing out of the scars on her shoulder. She starts sprouting a tail, and her menstruation is ridiculously heavy. Now, again, this is a side note, but just so that people understand, people who were born without the things that do that, or those of you who have not done that yet, women bleed from their vaginas once roughly every 28 days. Sometimes the cycle's a little shorter, sometimes it's a little longer, and when you hit certain periods of life, things get screwed up, and of course pregnancy will mess things up and all that. On average, I'm not going to say normally because every woman's normal is different. On average, you're not like geysering blood like Ginger was. Yes, heavy flows do happen where, some women's flow is so heavy that they cannot keep up with it and they do end up staying home some days. And yes, the cramps are bad. I am someone who has had that issue where, yes, sometimes you can't get out of bed because not only is your lower abdomen cramping, because that's what happens to shed the uterine lining, which is the bloody mess, but your back also starts cramping and you just feel icky. Your hormones are going up and down. So imagine that. So, guys, imagine your female partners or your mothers or your sisters or female cousins, the worst they had ever felt on their period, right? If you can remember that. Now skyrocket that shit. This is what Ginger's going through for her first period ever. So they talk to the school nurse, and the school nurse explains how periods work and all this. And, the way that the girls ask the questions, the nurse is very dismissive and tells them it's very normal. I'm making the educated guess that the nurse thinks the girls are exaggerating, when in reality, they're not. So, we have discussed that. But yes, personality-wise, Ginger's getting more aggressive, more sexual, definitely more overprotective towards Bridget. Now, she starts hanging out with classmate Jason. They end up having unprotected sex in the back of his car, I believe. And, there's consequences. That night, she comes back, and Ginger is freaking out. She's puking in the bathroom. She's covered in blood, so you automatically kind of, in your brain, the way this is cut, you think she killed the kid. No, but she did kill the dog next door. I can't remember the dog's name, but the dog just would not stop barking. Norman, that's the dog's name, because they are yelling, "Shut up, Norman!" The dog's a yapper anyway, but when Ginger was bitten, he became more of a yapper, because he's like, he smells something's wrong, I'm guessing. So they're like, okay, we'll get through this, this. They have a very codependent relationship on each other, with Ginger before being the stronger one, the more driving force. And it's like dangerously codependent. You'll see how like extremely codependent it is by the end of the film. Now, like a couple days later, there's an issue with Trina, the bully. Trina's got a thing for the drug dealer, Sam, who ran over the Beast of Bailey Downs. But he wants nothing to do with her. Bridget has approached him to talk about the thing that he hit. And she basically, they together figure out that the Beast of Bailey Downs, the thing he hit and killed with his car, his vehicle, van, was a werewolf. She has him convinced, I say that loosely, that she was bitten and she's transforming and they need to find a cure. Since he works at a greenhouse because he grows his own, when I say drug dealer, he's basically a pot dealer. He's not selling the heavier narcotics, he's just selling good old-fashioned pot. He works at a greenhouse, he's got his own section to grow in, so he knows a lot about plants and stuff. So she keeps going back, and they have little meetings where they're talking about this. At first he's like, well, the ancients believed that silver, pure metals like pure silver would purify the blood. So he gives her a pure silver earring, hoop ring, probably actually more like a belly button ring because it was so big, and says, try this, maybe this will help with your tail growing. So yes, later that night, Bridget goes and talks Ginger into letting her pierce it. Well, the pure metal does dick. The tail keeps growing and keeps growing to the point where they have to strap it down to her leg under her clothes with electrical tape. The effect on that is really cool, though. They did use a good prosthetic, and I liked it. He looks up in an herbal book and some folklore herbal books that monkshood, which is a relative of wolfsbane, making an extraction of that might also work. So, but he's like, it's a perennial, it only grows in spring, so we can't get a hold of any. So they're back to the drawing board, so they think. Again, on another evening, this is after Trina accused, I got off that tangent to go on to back up to the original point. Trina, they had a problem with. This is how aggressive Ginger's getting. Trina gets all up in Bridget's grill for trying to, for being interested in Sam, and Ginger just beats her the fuck up on field hockey practice. Like, she's like, busts her nose really good. She's got a bloody nose. It's bad. So it's like later that night or another night, close to, Trina appears at the Fitzgerald home. Now, the parents are out grocery shopping, so it's just the two girls. She accuses Ginger of kidnapping her dog, but she's confronting Bridget about it. Well, Ginger comes out of the darkness, and she grabs Trina. They struggle. They take it into the house. The struggle continues, And Trina ends up slipping and hitting her back of her head on the counter, breaking her neck and cracking her head open and killing her. So she's dead. It's an accidental death. Ginger never actually killed her. The girls panic a little bit. They hide her body Trina's body in a deep freeze. And they make it look like the girls were working on extra credit of a continuation of the school project that they were introduced with at the beginning, which is what was used for the opening credits. They had a assignment, I'm guessing for a multimedia project, or they chose to do it as a multimedia project. They did slides of life in Bailey Downs. These girls went ahead and basically staged death scenes in their house. Either suicide, accidental death. It was a cool opening, and that would have been it would have been a very cool project to do. Like, if it was a real life project, if your school would let you you're not going to be able to get away with it at school. But it's very cool. Well, the girls stage it so that it looks like they're getting extra credit. Ginger's laying there in I think it's spilled milk and blood, because the milk is what caused Trina to slip, and covered in blood. And Bridget starts acting like she's taking photographs so they can make more slides when their parents walk in. So Mom and Dad are like, oh my God, my weird kids are being weird again. So, they move on. They hide her body. They have a little clubhouse, dollhouse type playhouse in their backyard. They bury Trina in a shallow grave there once they chip her out of the deep freeze. Now, we're at Halloween. Oh, I forgot to mention. Well, I'll mention it later. Bridget found out that her mother brought some dried monk's hood back from the craft store. So she grabs it. She goes to Sam after barricading Ginger in their shared bathroom. She's like, you have to stay here so you don't hurt yourself or anybody else. Because Ginger's just you can see the claws starting to grow. She's starting to get fangs. She's well into the transformation. She still looks human enough that, if you're not looking too close, if you look too close, you start to see that something's changing, but she can still pass as normal right now. So she takes this monk's hood. They get it extracted. She's got a syringe. Sam pretty much lets her know. He's like, no, it's Ginger. I know it's not you. And you do realize that this could kill her just as much as it could cure her. You've got to be prepared for that. Well, Bridget, is on her way home when she's accosted by Jason, who we have figured out lycanthropy is a sexually transmitted disease as well as a bite-transmitted disease. Ginger passed it on to him. And she manages to get him off of her, and she stabs him in the neck with the syringe and injects him full of the cure, and it actually seemed to work. So sometimes she's got to figure out how she's got to get back to get him to make another infusion. Now, Ginger breaks out and shows up at school, flashes some boys. So, of course, the counselor's like, in my office now. And, she kills the janitor, or not the janitor. She kills the counselor. Bridget comes to school and she's like, okay, you're going to stay here all day. And when everybody leaves, we are going to clean this up. You are going to fix this. Bridget's starting to get more forceful with her sister because she's about fed up with her shit. Um, she goes to get stuff from the janitor's cart. Well, to go clean up all the blood and all that. Ginger decides she's going to kill the janitor because she doesn't like the way he looks at Bridget. He is an old Asian man who barely speaks English. At this point, I think she's just looking for reasons to kill people. And while they're arguing, Ginger pretty much lets it be known that Sam's her next target because she doesn't like how how him and Bridget's relationship is going. So, he has this, what they call the greenhouse bash. It's a Halloween party at the greenhouse every year. And so, Ginger's got it in her head she's gonna take care of Sam there. Now, while they are at school, the girl's mother discovers some of Trina's fingers in the deep freeze because apparently 2 or 3 fingers fell off when they were trying to get her out of the freezer. Which then leads her to finding Trina's corpse. She tracks Bridget down and picks her up and she's like, "Where's your sister?" And she's like, "She's at the greenhouse badge." And her mom says, she put the fingers in some Tupperware and puts it in Bridget's lap. And she goes, I don't know what happened, but I know what this is. I found the body. And, we'll fix this. Now, her parents are a little odd. Their dad is, they're obviously in counseling, it's mentioned. They're not like argumentative or abusive or anything like that, but you can just tell that dad's kind of checked out and mom's trying so hard to keep hold of her family. But, she basically tells Bridget, she goes, "I know that eventually you guys are going to leave me, but nobody's going to take my girls away from me. So tomorrow, I'll let the house fill up with gas. I'll light a match. We'll start over. Just my girls and me." She's like, "What about dad?" She's like, "I don't think your father would make it." So, little deadpan humor there from mom. Sorry, I'm trying to get where my placement is on the notes. So mom drives Bridget to the greenhouse batch, and Bridget's like, "Just lock the door and wait here. I will go get Ginger." Bridget arrives to find Sam fending himself against a newly close to completely turned Ginger. The lupine facial expression, like, they really, really went for Wolf Girl with this, and it worked. I love the prosthetic work. I love the makeup work, and Catherine Isabel just sells it so well. Now, Bridget wounds Ginger on the palm, and she wounds herself on the palm, and they do the kind of Blood Brothers thing. She's like, "Okay, I've got it too." Like I said, really severely codependent, it feels like. She does this to convince Ginger of her loyalty and her willingness to help her. The sisters leave, but they decide to leave their mom there, so their mom's floating around looking for them, but they don't go back. Ginger's like, you can tell Ginger's going to change again. Sam comes back and knocks her out with a shovel. And they take Ginger home to get more of the monkhood to make more of the cure. Now, on the way, Ginger ends up fully transforming and escaping through the faulty back of the van. Sam and Bridget hide in the pantry trying to make the cure with vodka, burning it in it's very, very, we're using what we got in front of us. He's like, "Okay, you stay here. I'm going to go and try and administer this." And she just fucking mutilates him. He is toast. Eventually, Bridget comes out. She finds Sam injured and bloody. Bridget tries her hardest to calm Ginger by sitting there licking up Sam's blood off the floor. You know, but she can't do it. She cannot do it. Now, Ginger is in full wolf. There's no human left. She can sense the insincerity, and she outright kills Sam at that point. Ginger chases Bridget, and they end up back in their bedroom. The one that their sanctuary, the room they grew up in, it was their area. Now, Bridget's trying to defend herself. She's got a knife. She got a syringe with the cure, and Ginger just lunges on that knife and injures herself, fatally wounding herself. And we end with Bridget lying her head on her wolf sister's corpse as she's dying, and Bridget just loses her shit. So not a very happy ending. But this does lead me into mentioning we have 2 other films in the Ginger Snaps series. The second one is a direct continuation of this story. I believe it's called Ginger Snaps Unleashed. And then there was a prequel called Ginger Snaps Back. The second one was a good film. We will go over it. The third one being a prequel and being a prequel set in like the late 17th or 1700s, early 18th. We're talking prequel. It was weird. It was not my favorite. I would watch it again, and I probably will. We'll talk about it in the future. But yeah, this is the best one out of the trilogy. So this was shot a little over 6 weeks in 3 of Toronto's suburbs, out in the winter, so these poor kids. They did use more practical effects than CGI. If there was any CGI, I didn't quite clock it. It was probably used to clean things up. Really big home video sales. So, yeah. I definitely recommend this film for more than one reason. If you like feminist horror, this is definitely up your alley. This would actually fit into a movie marathon night of feminist horror with Jennifer's Body and Lisa Frankenstein. This actually, since that predates both of those, I almost wonder how much of the success of Ginger Snaps influenced the Jennifer's Body and Lisa Frankenstein crews, because I know Diablo Cody was involved with both of those, in a non-direct way. I'm not saying, that they were inspired by Ginger Snaps and what to rip off, but because Ginger was so big, in pop culture and in the horror circles and people were talking about it, I wonder if that got people's minds rolling into more feminine-centered horror. Good, like I said, good solid werewolf movie. If you just like supernatural horror films. Please excuse me, it's kind of late and I keep yawning. I probably need another, it's cold too, I probably should have another hot chocolate or a coffee. I'm freezing. And I think because I'm so cold, it's making me tired. But I digress. The cast in this is solid. The direction was solid. The story was solid. This is a good werewolf movie. If anybody's got any other suggestions for werewolf movies, I have watched and reviewed for the channel this movie and American Werewolf in London. I have seen the old Universal Wolfman, Benicio del Toro starred in a version in the 2000s. I've watched that a long time ago. I've watched some of the Howling movies, and that's about it. So, like, the werewolf subgenre, it's not as prolific as its antithesis, or the other side of the coin, the vampire movie. And I would really like to, so to speak, sink my teeth into the genre. So any recommendations would be lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Any more feminine-centered horror? Now, before you all jump my shit and go, oh my god, she's a feminazi. No. But you have to admit, movies like this, and Jennifer's Body, and Lisa Frankenstein, that are somewhat female-centric, they have a different flavor. And I'm trying to decide if that is, just because these three particular ones were very well written, or if it's just, they all feel that way. It's more of a, I want to explore the genre more before I make a decision. That being said, we will talk about Ginger Snaps 2 eventually, and the prequel eventually. I think I have decided that for series, especially longer series, I'm just going to break them up and throw one or two in here and there. I don't want to do any more marathon videos like I did with the Evil Dead. I will be completely honest with you. As much as I loved talking about the Ash Williams saga, you know, Within the Woods, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and Ash vs. Evil Dead, that was kind of mentally draining. And I just can't see myself making video after video after video of, say, Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees or Chucky. I like the movies. Don't get me wrong. The movies are great. But I think my brain needs a minute to bounce to something else and do a reset. So with series like this one, where there's 3 films or more, we probably will not do videos back to back. I think the only time I ever really did a one movie and its sequel back to back was way back at the beginning of this channel. I did Waxwork 1 and 2 in my first attempt at the 31 Days of Halloween challenge. That's because it was only 2 films. So you got me there. As always, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have recommendations, if you have constructive criticism, be nice. Please use the comment bar, the comment area. You know, give me a like, show me to your friends. You know, I know that I am one small fish in a very, very big ocean, but, you know, it might be kind of fun to get some more engagement and get some more conversations going. I know that a lot of people are not really big on commenting and liking on YouTube. I'm just as bad. I'm trying to change that, where I go through and I leave a comment for a newer video. Now, old videos I don't necessarily go through and leave comments on because, you know, the creator might not even be focusing on that any longer. Like if I'm listening to an old podcast that they happen to upload as a video from like 4 years ago, I'm not going to make a comment. But, you know, something new and current or something like that, I'm trying to be better about it. And, you know, I'd love for you guys to engage me so that I can be better about it. But on that note, Ginger Snaps, excellent millennial werewolf horror movie, excellent female-centric horror. I highly suggest you watch it. And in the meantime, I'm going to get busy looking at my list of stuff I want to watch and getting my notes together and blah, blah, blah. You know how things work. Or, you know, when you're a creative person, sometimes you got to get all your ducks in a row. So I'm going to say a good night, my creeplings, and I'll see you next time. Bye.